You watch those nature documentaries on the cable?
Yeah.
You see the one about lions?
Yeah.
Get this lion. He's the king of the jungle. Huge mane out there. He's laying down under a tree in the middle of Africa. He's so big. He's so hot. He doesn't want to move. Now, the little lion cubs, they start messing with him. Biting his tail, biting his ears. He doesn't do anything. The lioness, she starts messing with him, coming over, making trouble. Still, nothing. Now, the other animals, they notice this, and they start to move in. The jackals, hyenas, they're barking at him, laughing at him. They nip his toes and eat the food that's in his domain. They do this, and they get closer and closer and bolder, till one day, that lion gets up and tears the shit out of everybody, runs like the wind, eats everything in his path. Because every once in a while, the lion has to show the jackals who he is.
Welcome to the Summer of Solo, the 2018 breakdown of the summer movies and shows currently on television and streaming services. You have reached the Monday Morning Critic, and I am so happy to be talking to you now. I'm going to say it's been a while since I've been behind the microphone, not for laziness or any other reason. Simply, I was donning my hat as a producer, and I've been booking guests nonstop for the last 2 weeks. I mean, and I'm still going back and forth with some people trying to find a common date, compiling one of the most impressive lists I've ever seen. So yeah, I apologize for my extended absence and not pumping out some thought-provoking and wonderful episodes that'll make you laugh and are certainly interesting. But, you know, just it's too much time away, but I can assure you it's all for a good reason. The other huge endeavor that I'm taking and that I'm just going to go forward with very soon is the podcast All Life is Precious podcast. It is the sister podcast of the Monday Morning Critic. It is a podcast that strictly focuses on The Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead, anything related to that universe, right? And mainly we're going to pick apart episode by episode. So that has been slow to launch, not because of lack of content. Again, I'm trying to make for the first episode. The second episode is done. The first episode is the one I'm trying to kind of take my time with and find a time that the guest I've asked and I can find a mutual date to just record it. So there's just a lot going on. Like I'm very excited for both. I'm so psyched. Like, yeah, the artwork I've had made and the ideas that I have, I'm beyond thrilled with. So, yeah, it's the guests. The last 2 weeks, I have been consumed with getting the All Life is Precious podcast right. And I have been literally, if this show was like, you know, as big as Howard Stern or as big as some of the, you know, like a Joe Rogan podcast, I would have somebody that's a producer scheduling these interviews, and it has consumed my time in a good way. Like, this is a challenge that I love, right? So it's like the same kind of challenge I get, like go to the gym and I feel good after I'm done. These are great challenges. And it's not all of my guests. A lot of it's me trying to find time to get these wonderful guests that I have. I have a few that are recorded. We're going to get those out. I'm just completely psyched about what the future holds. And you know, I'm not going to use, you know, very rarely do I have an episode like this where we can just, you know, shoot the shit, talk about the movies that are coming out this summer, talk about television shows and the goings on. You know, I do mention it, but most of the time on the Monday Morning Critic, we are interviewing, you know, we will talk everything that's, you know, related to movies, television, streaming, all that other fun stuff. But it's usually done with an interview. So when I get a show like this, I kind of like it. I don't have to, you know, I don't know. It's kind of like just press record and, you know, let my research lead the way. And, we talk about The Walking Dead, and I'm not going to, the whole purpose of starting a separate podcast, the All Life is Precious podcast, and I'm not going to really, I will mention it on my podcast, but it's not going to be the way, let's say, a father and a mother talk about two children, right? They're proud of both kids. It's not going to be like that. I will mention it on occasion, but it's going to have its own life. It's going to have its own identity. It's going to have its own unique quality to it. I'm really proud of it. So this is probably the last Walking Dead thing I'm going to say on the show outside the guests I have scheduled. But my goodness, today I'm reading that our beloved Rick Grimes is calling it quits after season 9. So that comes out to 6 episodes. Andrew Lincoln has said he's done. He's done after these 6 episodes. A large part of me feels that this is not a ploy, that's a bad word, a strategic way of perhaps getting more money or perhaps extending a contract. And if I'm factually mistaken, then I'm factually mistaken. I've also heard this is Michonne's last, year or last season. I think the two of them kind of saw what happened with Maggie, who was played by Lauren Cohen, and I think they were worried. I think, they came around and said, I don't like the way this is playing out, and maybe some security needs to be involved. I could be wrong. I mean, I could be way off base. This could be simply Andrew Lincoln saying, I'm done. And it could be Michonne Denai saying, I'm done. But if it is the case of them saying done, there's the reaction on, the internet, websites everywhere is, oh my God, the show's been dead for all that same bullshit hate I've been reading about The Walking Dead. I am beyond fed up with the Star Wars bullshit and the hate. I'm about to take my head off my neck and throw it at people. The sake of hating something just for the sake of hating it is, whether it's a movie or a show, is ridiculous. But we're going to get to that in a moment. But, if it is, there's a quote, and I'm probably going to butcher this quote. The quote is, it's better to let go too soon than to hang on too long, something along those lines. And if there's a good way for Andrew Lincoln's character to go and Michonne, played by Denai, to go, then that's good. Like, I don't want them around too long. I love Andrew Lincoln. I love Denai. I love all these characters, Lauren Cohen, and, people are like, oh, I don't think that, Norman Reedus can carry the show. Bullshit. Norman Reedus is a fantastic actor. The show's going to be great. Obviously, we miss Rick. But the confusing part for me, and this is completely why I created a separate podcast, and yet I'm here telling you about The Walking Dead on the podcast. I want to focus on something completely different, but that's okay because I just love talking, movies and television. I don't know. I'm really just, I'm not as upset as I thought I would have been. Maybe some of that has to do with we're in fear of The Walking Dead season, and, The Walking Dead has come and gone, and I'm not really completely focused on that. But I don't know. The show is built to last. I think it had a great last season. I certainly believe that Norman Reedus can lead. And I think the show has a lot of life in it. But I don't know. If they had plans, and this is the one thing I can't get rid of in my mind. If they had plans, and Lincoln leaving could not have been a surprise to people close to the show. I'm not buying that people were taken back that are close to the show. They had to know this. Then why kill Carl? Like, wouldn't you? Chandler Riggs is all for staying in this thing for the long run, as evident by the comments that Chandler Riggs' dad made. So he's certainly in this, Chandler would have been in it for the long run. And if you knew Rick was going, whether it's leaving or dying on the show, why wouldn't you just have, very similarly to the comics, why wouldn't you have Chandler lead the way? So there's a lot of question marks here, and everything that I'm saying is just speculative. What you're seeing on the internet is also speculative. I saw, a while back where Lauren Cohen was, making pilots for ABC and she's going to leave and this and that. So before we jump to conclusions, right, let's just let this thing play out. this is still one of my favorite. It is my favorite show on TV, and let it play out, let it go, let it kind of do its thing, and yeah, I'm not worried about it. But I'm a little shocked at what I saw today. It was like, whoa, I just have to believe there's better ways to go about things, and that's my take on it. I think that if it's not a ploy to get an extension or money or maybe some kind of disagreement, then maybe it's, and like I said, you can comment all you want. You have to wait to see how it plays out. If his death is a death that's, I don't know, cheesy or just kind of done for the sake of getting rid of him, I think there's going to be, I just think we're in a very sensitive period with the Walking Dead fans where they're not going to put up with just a cheesy death, right? They've been teased with deaths. They've been tricked. They've been kind of played with a little bit. So I think that if Rick and Michonne and whomever are going to leave the show, I truly hope it's with wonderful writing, it's with a beautiful storyline, and I hope it's done gracefully, right? It's 9 seasons, guys. You can't. I can name a ton of shows or movies where characters have been around too long, and they lose their. I mean, I know that the term is jump the shark, but they lose their value. They lose their sentimentality. They lose what you love about them, right? Rick is at the point where he's taken a big step in the show as far as being a leader and following his son's last wishes and words. And I don't know, I just think you got to be careful with that. You got to be very careful. And, speaking in that, and that's, we'll get back to the Walking Dead talk on the All Life is Precious podcast. Please give me while I have a chance now, I might as well do this. And to reach the Monday Morning Critic, I am on Twitter at MDMCritic. My Gmail address for Monday Morning Critic is mondaymorningcritic@gmail.com. And on Instagram, it's simply Monday Morning Critic. For the All Life is Precious podcast, it's ALIP podcast on Twitter. It is All Life is Precious podcast @gmail.com. And on Instagram, it is the All Life is Precious podcast. So please reach out, go at times that are convenient for you and check out what's going on each of those podcasts. So this summer, I have 3 months to myself. And I'm going to tell you that, I have other things going on, but I am devoted to developing this podcast more than it has. I'm so proud of the direction it's going in. We're developing a website. I'm doing some marketing things that I don't want to say too much about because I've been stolen from a lot. But I'm going to just be very careful on how I say what I want to say. So there's a lot going on that I can't say, that I'm very certain that will unfold, and it's going to take this podcast to a new place, right? Just on the subject of TV, Netflix, right? I had Michael Turek on the last show, great guest. Michael is part of season 2 of Ozark. I think that's going to be phenomenal. He's he's filming a movie with Gronk. Another great thing. So there's some great shows on Netflix, right? We all know that. We get Stranger Things. Stranger Things has phenomenal actors, and these are done by adolescent kids. And, we have Ozark, fantastic acting. And, I can go on, Orange is the New Black, and I can go on and on with the great acting we see. And I just finished watching a documentary. It's called Flint Town. It's about Flint, a city in Michigan, and it's about the police department. Focuses on the police department and partially on the water contamination they've had in Flint. And one of the things that is really it just blows you away is that I want to say there are like 100 or 98 officers in Flint that are responsible for 100,000 people. I want to say I could be off. It's a phenomenal documentary, and I found lately with Netflix, and I've been really disappointed. I feel like it's been hit or miss, right? You get wonderful shows like Ozark and Stranger Things, Mindhunter, Narcos, The Crown. Oh my God, just amazing shows. that Netflix has certainly set new ground with, and they're such a pleasure to watch. And then I'm just giving you an example here, a show that was called, I think it's called Safe, with Michael C. Hall, who played Dexter. And I'm going to tell you, the show's it's a little captivating. You start it, and then I want to say 4 to 6 episodes in, you're like, I just don't give a shit anymore. Like, just tell me where the girl is so I can just stop and end this show. It's just horrendous. It's very, I don't know. It's very difficult to watch. But I really feel like lately Netflix has been, hit or miss. I was reading reviews. I mean, not so much with Netflix, but on YouTube with Cobra Kai. They did a nice job with Cobra Kai, for sure. But the acting is, just to be very truthful here, I mean, YouTube has done a nice job acquiring a show that, the storyline is great. I like it. It's to say that it's not good is not being fair to the show. It's a great storyline. It's a great show. But one, who the hell wants to subscribe to YouTube Red? I know hopefully you get the free month, because otherwise it's not worth it. And two, I gotta say, like, maybe some things are better left in the past. Like, the acting in Cobra Kai is, I don't know. I don't want to insult people, but, I watched the first 2 on YouTube because I think they were free. And I'm like, this is great, and I'm not mentioning names, but the acting overall was just like, okay, it's okay, it's got a B plus storyline, A minus storyline. The acting probably rolls in at a B minus, C plus, and it's a good show. It's nothing special. I would certainly not subscribe to YouTube Red to watch this show. Like, if you can find a way to do it for free or a discount or a free trial, I highly recommend that, because I'm not a big believer in reboots. While they did a nice job in finding a way where it looks great, the storyline is great, and it makes sense, and it's not a cheesy plot, but the acting, for me personally, was just a little bit, people were comparing it to Stranger Things. Cut the shit. Stop. Please. Stranger Things is twice the show, 3 times the show that Cobra Kai was. People love Cobra Kai because they root for these guys, right? We love William Zabka. We love Ralph Macchio. We pull for them. And I'm not saying they're the bad actors. I'm not saying that. But we pull for those people because they're part of our lives. They're part of nostalgia. They're part of what makes, what makes movies awesome, especially those that came out of the 80s. But, the acting with, you throw in the other kids, and it's just like, oh, all right. I'm definitely not buying a subscription to YouTube Red to see season 2. I'll find another way to hopefully get it for free with a free trial or something. But that was my thoughts on Cobra Kai. Good show. Solid B to B minus show. Nowhere near the stratosphere of Stranger Things. Not even close. They're not even neighbors. They're not even the same town. Stranger Things is a solid A to A plus show. Cobra Kai's got a long way to go to be anywhere near Stranger Things. Granted, I know they're different types of shows, but, stop. So I open with The Walking Dead, and I have never seen a fan base turn on itself like in The Walking Dead. I want to say somewhere after season 2 or 3, people just started going on Facebook or the internet or, blogs or podcasts and just blasting the show and talking about how awful it is. I mean, I don't think I've ever blasted the show. I think I've disagreed with it, but most of all, I think it's pretty apparent that I love the show, and it means a lot to me. But I have to say the movie equivalent of that is Star Wars. My God, I don't know if this was sparked by The Last Jedi or if it began earlier with The Force Awakens or even earlier with the prequels. But I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to analyze and pick apart Star Wars. I am going to pick apart Solo. I went to a theater by my house. They have my first experience in these reclining chairs, and holy shit, was it comfortable. You could rest your popcorn, you could put your wallet, your keys, whatever possessions you have. It's almost like if you could picture a lazy boy with those old school like student desks where you had like an L-shaped where you could put your arm, your books, your notebooks. It's the L-shaped, holder, and it's attached to a Lazy Boy, and it's just such a wonderful experience. The 13 to 14, 6 to 7-year-olds, the woman decided to bring in that sat across the row from us, not so much. It's not okay to have children talking during a movie because you felt it was a cool idea to have a birthday party by going to see Solo. It's not okay. I'm not even so much talking about the price of the ticket, right? So 2 tickets was probably close to $30. And then you throw in the cost of a Diet Coke or maybe a small popcorn, whatever. You throw in that, and you're well into $40 or $50. And it's just not adorable. Like, I shouldn't have to get up and say, shh, 16 times during a movie, right? It's my weekend. This is my way to unfold. This is my way to enjoy my time off. This is my way to unwind. There's, for me, and I've said this 1,000 times, movies are better for me. And this is me talking. I mean, there's other podcasts that I mentioned previously that have zero care in the world for appreciation for movies or TV. They're just going through the motions, right? But that's not me. Like, I really love this. And when I have, 10 to 12, 6-year-olds sitting in the row, but because you have to buy, it's like buying a concert seat or a ticket to a sporting event. You get a certain seat. You can't just simply get up and move. So when these 6-year-olds are talking throughout the movie, it completely destroys the experience, right? And I shouldn't have to be the guy that turns to them and goes, shh, like that's what parenting is about, right? And if you can't parent your child effectively in public, then stay in your living room, right? You don't have the right to ruin my movie experience. And I know many of you could be saying right now, yeah, whatever, get a life, No, because nobody has that right. Nobody has the right to take away from your enjoyment. Absolutely not. Nobody has that right to shit all over your experience. Granted, I get the age, I get all that. But if you can't, as a parent, as a guardian, if you can't safely say, I can bring these kids out in public and be totally confident that these kids are going to be focused, well-behaved at the movie, then stay home. Because I'm telling you now, I've been to tons of movies. And I've been near, kids and adults and families and fathers and mothers where kids have been silent through 2.5 hours, not one word. And then I had an experience with like the movie Solo. It didn't ruin the movie for me, luckily, because I had to nonstop say shh. But after a while, they got the point. I shouldn't have to be a jerk to 6-year-old children, right? And chances are, if and the mother was so far down, I just wasn't about causing a scene. I shouldn't have to play kindergarten cop for bad parenting at the movie theater. And I think I've mentioned before, I've been to rated R movies that were thrillers or horror movies where there's been 2-year-old kids there. Like what are we doing? Like, what is going on here? But I'm very passionate about movies, right? If you went to a sporting event and some idiot is ruining that experience for you by standing the whole time, or using obscenities, or just ruining that sporting experience for you, or if you're on a plane and somebody's kicking the back of your chair, or smells like they haven't showered for a week, no one has that right to ruin your experience. I'm sorry, they just don't. When it's my time away, and it's my time to decompress and enjoy life, and enjoy something I'm very passionate about, and you can't control your children, keep them home. Sorry, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but like, it's not about money. It's like, I've waited. The previews for this movie started before the Super Bowl. Well, that's February. We're now in almost June. And, my goodness, I mean, I was psyched for this movie for so long. And as soon as these kids started talking, I said, are you kidding? And I got up and I looked, and the mother's all the way down, her face was in her popcorn, and, there's a whole line of kids, and, most of them got the point after a while, and it's just, I don't know, I don't get it. I'm very passionate about that. If you can't handle yourself at a movie, or you know that the people you bring to the movie are probably not movie people. And if that's the case, if you're not movie people, stay home. I mean, that's, this was like, I want to say on a Saturday at 6 p.m. And usually when I go to a movie, it's usually one of the first two showings, so it's very peaceful. There's not many people there. But my God, people, I don't know if they take pleasure in ruining the movie. And, these kids are 6. It's not on them. It's on their guardians. And these are just kids. But it's like, come on. Like, that's not fair. And it's not just kids. I've had older people my age, what's going on in the scene? And who's that character? And did we see that character before? People my age talking through the movie, showing up at the movie hammered. Like, it's just not okay. It's not. It's not okay to ruin somebody else's experience. And I apologize for being repetitive about that, but it infuriates me. There's been movies, not just Solo, that I've, a lot of these previews, remember guys, a lot of these previews are shown a year in advance. So they get you all pumped and, nah, I'm all set with that. And, I'm not going to stay home and illegally download a movie. And I'm not going to stay home and watch a movie in crappy quality on a Fire Stick or an illegal download. I'm not doing that. That's not me. I'm not, there's nothing like the theater experience. I love the theater experience. It means the world to me. It's better than any, not that I've done a lot of drugs or whatever, but it's better than any drug, any high, any, drink, anything. To me, I'm just passionate about movies. I love them. I don't have to worry about when I throw on The Walking Dead, somebody being an idiot, right? It's just my 2 beautiful dogs, my beautiful girlfriend. We're enjoying The Walking Dead, or Fear the Walking Dead, or Ray Donovan. But it's like when you go out, you risk having somebody else ruin your passion. And just whether you could substitute whatever your passion is with movie, and no one has the right to ruin that. And it's really a disturbing thing to me. It's something that needs to be addressed. And I'm not going to go over and start a confrontation, whether it's somebody my age or a mother of, whatever, it was a birthday party or whatever. I shouldn't have to put myself in a situation where there's an altercation. Not because I'm scared of the altercation, but now, if that happens, the blood's boiling. It's going to take me a long time to calm down. I'm not going to enjoy the movie that I've been waiting so long to watch. And I'm sorry to keep going on and on and on about this, but it's like if you're golfing and you have some idiot blowing an air horn on every single hole. Like, it's amazing how much people don't know the right thing. How they think paying admission gives them permission to act like that. I shouldn't be in a position to have to go get the manager. They have to be taught. Grown-ass people have to be taught the right thing. Yeah, it's not okay to talk during the movie. It's not okay. Like, and believe it or not, when those of you that love movies like I do, when you go to the cinema and you hear that loud, it's super loud now. That's not because they're looking so much for quality sound. It's because idiots don't know how to shut up. And that's why a large part of the cinematic experience includes an increased sound level, a decibel level, so it drowns out the sound. And I also want to add, talking during the previews, also not okay at all. Thank God it got better, because I was so moved by Solo. I was so, this is a movie that had a tough start. This is a movie that had to fire the first 2 directors. Kathleen Kennedy, who is Queen of Star Wars, is, she calls the shots. Wasn't happy for a variety of reasons. These guys would lock themselves in, and long story short, she hires Ron Howard to go in. He reshoots 85 to 90% of the movie. And with Ron Howard, no matter what you do, you're going to get a quality product, right? I view my podcast as like the Ron Howard, right? There's days where I feel like my podcast could be nominated for an Academy Award, which Ron Howard has won. There's days where, I feel maybe not so much. But I feel like even on the worst day, I'm delivering something quality. And I feel like there's other podcasts that are closer to, and what I try to stay away from, being like Michael Bay, right? You look at the flashiness of the advertising and the flashiness of, the fraudulence of paying for, people to listen to this show, and paying for listeners, and, paying for guest finder services, all that other just bullshit. And, Michael Bay, that's Michael Bay, right? Some podcasts, many of these podcasts have hundreds and thousands of listeners. It's got flashy content. The social game is on point. The internet game, their Twitter game is on point. The Instagram is on point. All of it looks fantastic. But when you finally listen to the final product, it's complete bullshit. It's rubbish. It's awful, right? And that's a Michael Bay movie. It's a lot of sound. It's a lot of visuals, and it's visually and when you walk out of the movie, you're like, that's horseshit. Like, there's nothing that resembles quality that I just saw. Michael Bay movies have no writing. The plot sucks. The final product sucks. The part that should matter is awful. And my point is that Ron Howard always delivers. And I felt like comparing it to my podcast because I believe I'm in the same boat. But this movie, Solo, had me in tears from start to finish. Alden, and I hope I always mispronounce his name, Ehrenreich, and Donald Glover are so goddamn good as Solo and Lando. It's unbelievable. Like, it's not, like, this could have been so bad and turned into such a car accident. And it's like, they had the challenge of not only taking one iconic character and representing him, but two, you have Lando and Han Solo, and trying to take those characters and make them their own. And my God, 5 minutes in the movie, and I legitimately believe in my heart I'm watching a young Han Solo. I keep saying Han, it's Han. I keep watching a young Han Solo and a young Lando Calrissian, and these two actors, Glover and Ehrenreich, are absolutely phenomenal. Point blank. There's no other word for it. And I just, there's something about Star Wars, and the fans have turned against each other, and I don't know why, and I don't care. I just hope Disney keeps cranking out these movies that I love. I loved Last Jedi. I had a lot of problems with it, but I loved it. I don't agree with a lot of it, but I loved it. I loved Solo. I agreed with all of it. It was beautiful. It's in my top 4 Star Wars movies. I'm easily putting in the top 4. You could take A New Hope, Jedi, Empire Strikes Back, and throw in Solo somewhere in there. And I love all 4 of those. I mean, I loved all of these movies, but holy cow. I mean, I like, tears are pouring. And my girlfriend's looking over once in a while, like, just like staring, like what is wrong with you? It's just the nostalgic piece, and that these guys were able to transform themselves into these younger versions of iconic characters that I'm completely in love with. You see the Millennium Falcon. You see how the way Solo pilots, like, this craft, and it's so cheesy what I'm about to say. Just the rapport and how he meets Chewbacca. It puts its hand around your heart and doesn't let go. And even the rapport that Lando has with his robot L3, or the rapport, I don't want to say rapport to objects that aren't human, but I'm going to say it. The rapport and the relationship that the Millennium Falcon, that these guys are involved with, like this, it's more than a ship. It's an iconic piece of history, and it's almost like that's the way they treat it without saying it. I don't know how to explain it, but just cutting it and making it very simple without giving spoilers. Chewbacca, Lando, Solo, Amelia Clark was phenomenal too. So as was Woody Harrelson. I'm sorry if I left them out, but the rapport they have, and the ship. I don't know. It's just, I don't know what to compare it to. Like, it's just so beautiful. And these guys, Alden as Solo and Donald, Glover as Lando. Man, Donald Glover is so freaking cool as Lando. He's so slick. He is so great. I'm like, this is a young Lando. He's not acting like Billy D. Williams. It's the way you would see Lando, 30 or 40 years younger. Same thing with Han Solo. And I'm telling you, these two won me over. Their performances should be recognized by the Academy, minimally the Golden Globes. And there's a lot of things along the way, I don't like the term Easter egg. There's little things along the way, though, that you see and just touch a place in your heart. And the movie itself is, like, if you're just looking for an action-packed sci-fi movie, this is for you, too. Like, there's so many awesome ways. And then when I go to Flickster, Rotten Tomatoes, and I see that 60% of the audience liked it, which is the bare minimum before it gets to be a rotten review, a quote-unquote rotten review. This is clearly people are purposely sabotaging this movie with bad reviews. I loved it, and there's a lot of hate where, it didn't make this amount of money. I don't care. Ron Howard told a story, and I'm completely in love with it. That's period. I don't want to hear money. I don't want to hear any of the other stuff. I don't want to hear, why you were pissed about The Last Jedi. I don't want to hear that there's too many movies coming out at once. I'll watch a Star Wars movie over anything Tyler Perry, Rob Zombie, any of the Avengers, any of the DC Comics movies. And to be honest with you, I went to go see the Avengers movie, Infinity War. I fell asleep. I mean, sorry. Like, it was a good movie. And I'm going to say something that's going to give this away. So just, if you have to, you can pause, for 3 or 4 seconds. I'll give you 1, 2, 3. Half the characters disappear in the movie, but they're all coming back. Half of them have movies that have dates set. So whatever character is gone or died, is coming back. So it was cheap. There was some great performances. I mean, it's a very, very good movie. It's a B+, but people talking about this movie like it's the greatest thing. Just stop, please stop it. Certainly is not. For me, it wasn't. I loved Thor, loved Captain America, loved some other great performances, but, obviously Guardians of the Galaxy, my favorite of the bunch, but, there's just, I didn't find it as great as other people did. I did love Deadpool 2, by the way, and that's something I'm going to talk about in a second, that I'm really starting to come around on Ryan Reynolds, and I'm really starting to come around on Deadpool. I just think it's a whole hell of a lot of fun, and, I'm going to get to that in a moment. But just to talk about Star Wars, it's John Williams' last score for a Star Wars movie. Ron Howard took this movie over in 2017 in June, I want to say. And if I'm off, I'm not off by much. And reshot it so well. I mean, you can't even tell that there was an issue with directors. You can't tell. It's such an amazing story. And, just for FYI, it did have the same release as A New Hope in 1977. First movie with no C-3PO, no R2, no lightsabers. And, there's a lot of those interesting facts along the way. And great writing by Lawrence Kasadian. Oh my God, he's been with Lucas for a while. He's done, I believe, the Indiana Jones movies. Yeah, great movie. I can't even begin to tell you. I don't want to ruin it. So like in Star Wars, every Star Wars movie, there's a reveal. There's a surprising turn. After Vader being Luke's father and Leia and Luke being brother and sister, I thought this was I thought this would have been third. The reveal in this movie is third. The reveal in Solo is third. So I was so happy. And, even with the people trying to ruin the movie next to me, I loved it. I saw through it. A lot of tears. There's a great scene at the... I'll leave this to you. There's a great scene at the end that encapsulates what is so great about Star Wars, what is so great about Solo, and it's just, for me, it was already a home run at that point. That might have turned it into a grand slam for me. I completely in love with this movie, completely, and I'm not just, I get nothing for saying this. I don't, I don't obviously get paid to do this. You're gonna love it if you're a Star Wars fan and you don't appreciate this movie. Something's something's wrong. But I just, for the last time, and I know I've been repetitive today for a lot of reasons, but I don't know. I look at IMDb, it's got a 7.1, and I look at the performance that Alden Ehrenreich and Donald Glover gave, and I can't even begin to tell you how cool these two are, how phenomenally talented they are. But that's not the trick here. So, right, many actors can do those two things. The thing I mentioned that they did was they got into iconic roles and played by other people and were just so amazing. Like, they didn't try. Like, you will live the rest of your lives and maybe never see that again, where somebody kind of takes that role. And I'm not talking like, so there's like a lot of people that have played Superman. There's a lot of people that have played Batman. I'm not saying that. That's not what's happening here, right? You might have actors that have tried to play Christopher Reeve, but that's not what I'm saying is going on here. I'm saying that if I was a 12 or a 13-year-old kid, right, and I saw Solo, and I saw the way Donald Glover and Alden Ehrenreich were on stage as Solo and Lando, and not on stage, on the screen, and then I went to go watch Empire Strikes Back, I'd be totally convinced that those were the two younger versions of the characters I'm watching in Empire Strikes Back that came out in 1983. That's how goddamn amazing they are. And I cannot begin to tell you how impressed and how in love I am with this movie, with these actors. Non-stop, awesome. Give me more Star Wars. Give me more. Whenever Kathleen Kennedy... And by the way, if I was a little off on her for a while, I'm on her bandwagon. I am leading the Kathleen Kennedy fan club, and I'm so proud of what she's done. You know, she saw a movie that she wasn't happy with, and she said, this is bullshit. Threw the two directors out that she wasn't thrilled with, brings in Ron Howard. Ron Howard takes a movie that is on shaky ground, turns it in, I don't want to say a masterpiece, but it's pretty damn good. And my God, I love it. And if I read one more negative comment about Star Wars or the Star Wars universe, I'm going to destroy my computers. I'm done listening to people not knowing what they say. It's okay to have a disagreement with people. It's okay to not agree on something. But just to throw shotgun blasts of, this sucks, Star Wars sucks, Walking Dead sucks. Like, you can't even approach somebody like that. You can't even have that debate. It's going to be a lose-lose for you. So, but as I mentioned, I talked about Deadpool 2. I wasn't high in the first Deadpool. I was like, eh. And if you go back a ways, you'll probably see that. I am in. With Ryan Reynolds. I think Ryan Reynolds is an enormous heart. Granted, Ryan Reynolds, he probably has a lot of range, but Deadpool, there was no other actor can play Deadpool like Ryan Reynolds. Like, if you had any other actor, it wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work. For me, Christian Bale and Batman are the same way, but that's a story for another day. So, yeah, I am so far into Deadpool. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Again, not a huge fan of the Avengers movie. I'd put Deadpool at an A-. I'd put the Avengers at a B, maybe B+. Only because, when you watch The Walking Dead, when somebody dies, and I keep going back to The Walking Dead, good thing I created a separate podcast. When I watch The Walking Dead, when a character's gone, Like, they're not coming back. Half the Marvel Universe disappears, and literally, I want to say 85% currently have movies in production or a production date. I mean, come on, stop it. Give me a break. So we talked about the podcast, the future. There's tons of, surprises in Solo, and I wish I could talk about them, but I don't want to ruin the movie for you. Please see it when you can. I think you'll love it. There's a lot of current events in the news that involve actors, whether it's tweets or misconduct. My podcast is not a forum for that kind of thing. I don't want to touch it. Obviously, it's deplorable. It's disgusting. It's awful. Nothing that, if anybody spent any amount of time on Twitter today, the majority has it right. It's just disgusting. And I'm not going to touch that. Not because I'm scared. My podcast is about, just keeping it about the content, the movie, the actors' performances. and I'm just really bummed out about what's happening, about some people's actions. So I'll leave that there. We talked about Netflix, Deadpool 2. So psyched for Sicario 2. The first one is amazing. I believe if you want, it's available on... Is it Prime or Amazon? I think it's Prime. Please see Sicario. Benicio del Toro and the Breaking Down show we had earlier was my number one underrated actor of all time. He certainly is. He's a badass in every way. By the way, he's been in a bunch of Star Wars movies now. He's in Guardians. He's in all these great shows and movies. Jurassic Park looks so good. There's a great movie coming out. It didn't get a great reaction with the preview with the crowd we were at, but it looks so hilarious. It's about it's about these four guys, childhood friends. It's Jeremy Renner, John Hamm, Jake Johnson, Isla Fisher, who's married to Sacha Baron Cohen, Annabella Wallace, Leslie Bibb, Ed Helms, Hannibal Buress, and Rashida Jones. And this movie is about a 23-year game of tag, right? So it doesn't matter where it is, apparently. It's a whole game of tag. And the real kicker here is that it's a true story. Like, of all the summer blockbusters I've talked about and that I bring up quickly before I end the podcast, this one has me interested in a really kind of sneaky way because I think it's going to be really funny. I think this is a movie like Hangover that's going to catch people by surprise. And when they find out that it's a true story, I think people are going to laugh their asses off. I think this has got hit written all over it. Ocean's 8, doesn't look very good to me. I'm not a big fan of those, movies where there's, 400 cast members. And not Logan Lucky was like that, but one of the very few that makes it work in an awesome way. There is one movie coming out. It's called Heredity. And early reviews have this movie at scarier than The Exorcist. And I'm going to leave it alone because there's a lot to it. But this movie called Heredity is supposedly one of the scariest movies to ever, and I mean ever, come out. So that's coming out this summer. Incredibles 2, definitely going to watch that. Ant-Man and Wasp are coming out. I'm psyched to see that. Mission Impossible, in which apparently Tom Cruise has done every stunt on the planet. I mean, and I'm not saying that sarcastically. Like, Tom Cruise has beat himself up. He broke his ankle. He really put himself through the ringer for this. I'm psyched to see that. So there's so many movies that are just coming out, and I'm very proud of. And finally, I want to say that, one of my guests, and I want to say it was in episode 30 or 31, was a man named Ron Stallworth. And Ron Stallworth's life story is being turned into a movie that has Adam Driver, Denzel Washington's son, David Washington, I believe. Great cast. And supposedly this movie got a 10 to 15 minute standing ovation at the Cannes Film Festival. So, yeah, Ron Stallworth was on the show. He's who the movie is based on. The movie is called Black Klansman. And early talk is that this movie's got awards written all over it. Academy awards written all over it. So, again, Ron Stallworth was a guest on the Monday Morning Critic. I was proud to have him on early on. And again, it goes to my philosophy. If I said it once, I said it 1,000 times. I get meaningful guests that mean the world to me. I reach out to them. No one's ever kind of, referred me a guest or I had to pay them to get me a guest. These people mean the world to me. When I read about Ron's story, I was blown away. And I said, you know what? I read Ron's book. I'm getting him on the show. And Ron was nice enough to agree. There's some potential for him to come back, but he is, in his own words, we talked for a little bit today, his reality has changed. He's got a lot going on, but you're going to love the Monday Morning Critic in the next few weeks, especially over the summer. I've got, a solid 30 people that either have agreed, confirmed, planned, expressed interest, and I'm sorry to make you wait so long. Usually I don't make people wait this long before releasing episodes. It was a matter of I have been my own producer, and I put the host part of me aside, and I just went crazy with just, going out and getting the best quality for the people that take time to listen to my podcast. So that's kind of why it's taken so long between episodes. This was supposed to kind of drop a few days ago. I appreciate your patience, certainly. But other than that, this has been a great episode. I've got kind of animated a little bit, but my heart's always in the right place. I want to thank you for listening to my podcast. For those of you that keep coming back, if you love what I have to say, thank you. If you are still listening and laughing at me, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading the podcast. I put my heart into this thing, and I will continue to do so. And finally, I'm don't forget about if you're a big fan of The Walking Dead or Fear the Walking Dead, please give the All Life is Precious podcast a chance. You're going to love the format, and you're going to love what I have planned for that as well. So there's a lot going on. I'm working on a website for the show for both shows. It's going to be one website for both podcasts. A lot going on with my guests here. A lot of content coming at you. A lot of surprises around the corner. And it's really, the future is bright. And, I've been working with a few people to promote this. And like I said, I want to be careful what I say here because people tend to rip off what I say. With promoting the podcast the way I want it. This is my vision, my podcast. This is the way I want to do things. And I'm talking to two people right now that are well known in the marketing industry, especially as it applies to podcasts. And we are working with each other to really get the Monday Morning Critic brand and what I'm talking about, and the super guests that I have, and the pattern and everything else out there. I don't want to do the podcast game as usual, and I'm not talking about one particular podcast. The podcast formula is retweeting, it's Twitter, it's that's old and stale. People aren't really listening. It's not. It's an old washed up formula. It's VCR technology. If you're looking to get some numbers and to look impressive, that's the formula for you. But just talking with friends I have in the podcasting industry, it's about getting your name out there. It's about developing something new. It's about putting your personal touch on this. It's not about cutting a check for $20 for a guest finding service, cutting another $20 for a service that retweets your podcast so people can, listen, and so another $20 to get followers. That's VCR. That's, if you're operating under that system, you're gone. You have no chance. I'm convinced when this podcast gets out there and people listen, and I know because I keep getting guests that are agreeing to come on after they say to me, let me listen to a few shows. My guests listen. They say, when can I come on? So they love what they're hearing. So I know what I'm doing works, right? This is not the guest finding service. This is not the old played out formula. That's VCR technology, right? That's not what I'm about. I want to sell the brand that I'm proud of. I want to sell the brand that I've been busting my ass for 2 years to get this going. And, the funny thing is when you apply to go to a Comic-Con, people will listen and they'll say, wow, this is great. And, I've gone to a couple last year. Can't wait to go to the ones I'm going to this year. But they also look at follows, and they're starting to pick up on this. It's funny that, and I'm not going to mention names or what service or anything. They said that we used to check numbers of downloads, and because people can manipulate and play those numbers. Now, the people that are running the Comic-Con conventions are catching on to those gimmicky ways of inflating your totals, and they're turning those people down. They're listening to the content. And thank you to those people. Thank God. I had an hour and 10-minute conversation, I want to say late last week, with somebody who promotes a very big con on the West Coast. And we had this great conversation, and that's one of my surprises, but I'll leave that for another day, that they're catching on to this, this insincere way of promoting garbage. And I'm glad people are catching on. That's all I've ever asked for. And I'm not saying I'm the king of podcasting or this great, podcaster. What I am saying is I believe my product is unique. My product is one that is genuine, authentic, and I believe it's entertaining in a lot of ways. And I hope you find it to be the same thing. Thanks for listening to me ramble and drone. It's been a while since we talked. I want to say it's been almost 2 weeks. My name is Derek Thomas. Thank you for turning into the Monday Morning Critic. We'll talk soon.
I've been running scams on the street since I was 10. I was kicked out of the flight academy for having a mind of my own. I'm gonna be a pilot. Best in the galaxy.
Hey, kid. I'm putting together a crew. You in?
That's yes.
I might be the only person. Who knows what you really are?
What's that?
Get ready. Thought we were in trouble there for a second, but it's fine. We're fine.